Her hand hovered over the soup cans when a wave of fear hit with no warning at all. One moment she was reading a label, and the next her heart was slamming against her ribs. She set the can down carefully because her fingers had started to shake. Nothing around her had changed, but suddenly she wanted to run. The strange thing was, she had felt perfectly calm for months, ever since the accident that should have shaken her. She had walked away from that crash without a scratch, handled the paperwork, and returned to her ordinary life. Everyone told her how strong she was, and she believed them. So why, on a quiet Tuesday in a grocery store, did her body feel like the danger was happening again right now? She tried to tell herself it was just random stress, but the feeling refused to shrink. Her mind scrambled for a reason because our brains do not like fear without a clear cause. But maybe the most confusing part was the gap, the long stretch of months between the event and the flood of emotion. That gap raises a question that can unravel our understanding of how human feelings work. The obvious answer is that emotions arrive when something happens, right away, like a reflex. A car swerves toward you, and fear lights up before you even finish thinking about it. Someone you love says something hurtful, and sadness or anger rushes in within moments. That immediate response is what we expect, and it is the part of emotional life most people recognize. But the emotion in the grocery aisle did not follow that rule because the event was long past. This is the mystery of the delayed emotional response, and it is far more common than we usually acknowledge. Psychologists have long observed that under certain conditions, the strongest feelings surface only after the danger has passed. During a crisis, the mind can act like an emergency room that triages a wound before letting the patient feel the pain. The brain's command center shifts into a survival mode that prioritizes action over reflection. A small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala stays us on high alert, scanning for threats and preparing the body to react. At the same time, a front part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, helps keep emotions under a tight lid so you can focus on what needs to be done. This braking system is not a flaw because staying calm during a car accident can help you steer the car away from further harm. The woman who walked away from the crash did exactly that, and her brain did its job by postponing the fear. But postponing is not the same as deleting, and the emotion does not simply vanish into thin air. Research on stress shows that the body can hold the score long after the conscious mind has moved on. Muscles may remain tensed, stress hormones can stay slightly elevated, and the threat detection system may keep running in the background like a silent alarm. What finally allows the emotion to arrive is not the original danger, but a signal of safety strong enough to unlock the door. The quiet grocery store, with its bright lights and ordinary boxes of soup, was exactly the kind of safe environment her nervous system had been waiting for. This mismatch often leads people to a second, more troubling misunderstanding about what the delay means. When someone feels a sudden rush of dread in a harmless situation, they might conclude something is deeply wrong with their own mind. They may label the experience as a breakdown, a sign of hidden weakness, or even a step backward in recovery. But a growing body of psychological evidence offers a very different interpretation. The delay is not evidence of a malfunction. It is proof that the mind prioritized survival before it prioritized feeling. In other words, the strength she showed after the accident was not fake, but the bill for that strength was going to arrive eventually. Think of it like holding a heavy box at arm's length and refusing to notice how much your muscles are burning. Later, when you finally set it down in a safe place, the trembling and ache flood in all at once. The pain was not created by putting the box down because it was already there the whole time. The same logic applies to the emotional aftermath of frightening events, whether the event is an accident, a sudden loss, or a period of prolonged strain. There is another layer to this puzzle, because the trigger that releases a delayed emotion is not always as random as it first appears. The grocery store might have contained a subtle reminder that escaped her conscious notice while still reaching the brain's watchtower. Perhaps a sound, a color, or even a familiar product was quietly connected to the memory of the crash. When the amygdala detects a match, it can sound the alarm before the thinking part of the brain has time to say that everything is fine. But even without a direct reminder, the sheer ordinariness of a safe setting can itself become the signal that opens the floodgates. This is why some soldiers felt the terror of battle not in the trenches, but years later, while sitting on a quiet porch at home. It is why a person who held it together during a painful breakup may finally crumble weeks afterward while folding laundry. The delay does not mean the first calm was a lie, because the calm was a real adaptive response that served a necessary purpose. Yet not everyone experiences a dramatic delay, and that difference holds its own lessons. Some people process feelings in the moment because their upbringing taught them that emotional expression is safe and welcome. Others learn early that strong feelings must be locked away until a more private or appropriate moment arrives. Culture, family patterns, and even personality can shape whether a person feels their emotions immediately or stores them for later. The key insight is that neither path is automatically better, but one path can be more confusing when the emotion finally arrives. A person who does not expect the delay may interpret it as a fresh crisis rather than a stored signal finally being delivered. Adding to the confusion is the way memory itself works, because memory is not a perfect video recording to be played back on command. Even a vivid memory is reconstructed each time we recall it, and its emotional weight can change depending on our current state of safety. When she first remembered the accident weeks ago, her brain may have filed it away with the emotion muted because danger still felt too close. Now, in the calm of the grocery store, the same memory can surface with its full emotional charge intact for the first time. This brings us back to the woman standing in the aisle with a trembling hand she cannot explain. From the outside, she looks like someone who has suddenly come undone for no reason at all. But the science of delayed emotion reframes the scene entirely, and without a single trace of judgment. Her body is not breaking down because it is finally catching up. The fear racing through her is the same fear that was always there, stored in the nervous system, since the day the metal crunched and the glass shattered. She could not feel it then, because feeling it then might have slowed her down when she needed to climb out of the car and call for help. Her brain made a trade-off, and the trade-off was temporary numbness in exchange for immediate safety. That trade-off is not a sign of a disordered mind, because it is a feature of a mind built to survive a dangerous world. And yet, the cost of that trade-off becomes visible only when the safety arrives and the bill comes due. This is the painful paradox at the heart of recovery, because the moment we feel safe enough to break is the moment we often mistake for a collapse. Understanding this can transform how you meet your own delayed emotions when they eventually surface. Instead of asking what is wrong with you, you can ask what your body is finally ready to tell you. The fear in the grocery store was not a message about the soup cans, because it was a message about the accident that had never been fully processed. Naming the emotion and linking it back to its original source can start to untangle the confusion that makes it feel so overwhelming. Simply saying to yourself, "This is old fear arriving late," can create a small pocket of space between the feeling and the panic about the feeling. That space holds the reversal that changes everything. The trembling hand in aisle 3 was not the first chapter of a breakdown, because it was the final chapter of a survival story the body had been writing for months. Every beat of her racing heart was not a sign of weakness, but a long-delayed signal that she was finally safe enough to feel what she had been through. The calm she carried for all those months was not a lie, but it was a protective loan, and the repayment arrived with interest in the form of a panic attack. What looked like her weakest moment was actually the moment her nervous system trusted her enough to stop pretending. This reframe does not erase the discomfort because the experience is still terrifying and physically exhausting, but it does remove the shame, and shame is often the heavier burden. She was not failing at coping, because coping does not always mean staying unshaken forever. Sometimes coping means holding the door closed until you are in a soft enough place to let the storm blow through. After the climax of understanding, the question shifts from why this happened to what can be done when it does. The first and most compassionate step is to stop fighting the emotion or treating it like an intruder. The arrival of a delayed feeling is not an emergency in the present, even though it can feel exactly like one. Grounding yourself in the current moment can help the brain update its danger assessment with accurate information. You might notice the cool metal of the shopping cart handle, the hum of the refrigerator case, or the ordinary colors of the soup labels. These small details whisper a message the amygdala needs to hear, which is that the threat is over and the body is safe right now. For some people, gentle movement, like a slow walk, helps the body complete the stress cycle that was interrupted months earlier. For others, telling a trusted person what just happened can transform a terrifying solitary experience into a manageable shared one. There is no single correct way to meet a delayed emotion, except to meet it with the kindness you would offer a frightened friend. It is also worth remembering that not every intense feeling is a delayed response, and professional support can help untangle what is happening. But when the emotion truly is a late arrival from an old wound, understanding the delay can prevent a second wound from being added by self-criticism. Now return one last time to the woman in the grocery store as she stands motionless beside her cart. Her hand is still trembling, but something has shifted inside her because she has stopped asking what is wrong with her and started listening. She takes a long breath, feels the solid floor under her feet, and recognizes the fear as an echo rather than a prophecy. The fear may not vanish in that instant, but it no longer owns the whole stage. Sometimes the bravest thing a mind does is hold itself together long enough to find a safe place to fall apart. And the falling apart is not a failure, but the beginning of homecoming.